Hi there, I'm Tom Percival. I'm the author and illustrator of Ruby's Worry, The Seesaw, the Dream Team series, and a whole load of other books. But today, I'm going to be talking about my brand new picture book, The Invisible. Ta-da! The Invisible is a book that explores the effect that poverty can have on children. When I was a child, I lived in a caravan and my family had very little money. I received free school meals, nearly all my clothes came from jumble sales or charity shops. We weren't connected to the electricity grid, and we had gas lamps in our caravan. But worst of all, we didn't have a TV. Well, I say worst of all, actually, I kind of liked not having a TV. It meant that I spent a lot of time reading books from the library, walking in the countryside, and drawing. And all of those activities I still love to this day. I've even been lucky enough to make a career out of drawing. All the same, whilst there were certain aspects of my childhood that helped make me who I am today, it's hard to not have enough money. It can be crushingly hard. A lot of the time I was cold, like really cold. I would wake up with ice on the inside of the windows, up the side of the bunk bed that I slept on, and even on the blankets where my breath had condensed overnight. And while all my friends were having birthday parties and new toys, trips out, holidays, and all those sorts of things that my family couldn't afford, I didn't have any of it. Now, none of my friends tried to make me feel bad, but all the same, I did feel bad. You know, if you're going to bed hungry while your friends are talking about the brand new Transformers figure they got for their birthday, you can't help but feel things are a bit unfair. And it is unfair. And that's what I wanted to communicate in The Invisible. Because there are lots of children, like Isabel in the story, like me when I was young, who live in families without enough money. And all too often these children can be ignored or made to feel invisible, like they don't matter, like they have nothing to offer. And it's not just children living in poverty. There are lots of ways that people can be made to feel invisible. And I wanted to make a book that says it's not right. We're all visible. We all have something to offer and we all belong here. So I hope that you enjoy the story. It really does mean a lot to me. So here we go. The Invisible by me. Isabel pulled on her favourite jumper. Ice curled across the inside of the window and crept up the corner of her bedpost. It was very beautiful, and Isabel always noticed beautiful things, but there was no escaping the fact that it was also cold. Very cold. You see, Isabel's family couldn't afford to have the heating on. Isabel's family couldn't afford a lot of things. Things that some people take for granted. But Isabel tried not to worry about the things that she didn't have. After all, she and her family had everything they needed. They had each other. But one day, there just wasn't enough money to pay the rent and all the bills. And Isabel and her family had to leave their home, the house which held all of their happy memories, and move to the far side of the city. For the first time ever, Isabel couldn't find anything beautiful to cheer herself up. This part of the city looked exactly how she felt. Cold, sad, and lonely. A family drove past in a shiny car, but they looked straight through Isabel, as though she wasn't even there. None of the other smartly dressed people seemed to see her either. Isabel looked down and realised she could barely see her own hands or her feet. She was fading away. Before long, Isabel was completely invisible. She drifted silently down the streets, as pale and thin as the wind, and nobody saw her at all. But now that Isabel was invisible, she noticed something she hadn't seen before. Other invisible people, lots of them. There was an old lady planting flowers in empty paint pots. There was the man who slept on a bench in the park, feeding the birds. And there was the boy who'd been forced to leave his home in another country, helping to mend someone's bike. But they all seemed so alone. Isabel decided to help. She planted flowers in the paint pots, and she looked after the stray animals, and she helped to fix things up. Then, day by day and week by week, other people joined in too. And the more that people came together, the more they could all be seen. Soon, Isabel wasn't just visible, she was vibrant. And so was her new home. And that was how Isabel made something very special. One of the hardest things that you can ever make. Isabel had made a difference. Okay, so now you've heard Isabel's story, I'm going to show you how to draw a picture of her. So grab some paper, a pencil, and some colouring pencils if you have any. Everybody ready? And let's get going. Okay, so here we go. I have my trusty iPad and I'm going to start off by drawing a oblong. So what we're going to do is we'll start off quite light at first. We're not going to use really heavy strokes, so get a pencil and we will draw an oval shape. So kind of like that. Okay, so this is going to be Isabel's head. Okay, and we keep it quite simple to start off with. We keep it nice and light so that we can add a bit more detail later on as we need to. So we're just keeping small strokes here, and then we're going to do a little square at the very bottom of that oval, and that's going to be Isabel's neck. And then we're going to do a rectangle. We want quite a small rectangle, so make it so it would be about as long as the head is wide. Okay, so far we have drawn an oblong, a square, and a rectangle. So this is all very geometric. Okay, now we're going to draw two straight lines coming down from the edge of the rectangle. So it goes from each of the bottom corners of the rectangle. Now, having done that, we can draw a little line across in from the bottom of each of those lines, and then we draw a line up from one, a line up from the other, and we leave a gap from the bottom of the rectangle, and we draw a line across there. And then those are going to be the legs. Now, the shoes are very simple. So we basically just do little triangles. So all of this is very simple shapes. And in fact, that's all drawing is. Drawing is about making simple shapes, simple lines, simple curves, but just putting them together in the right place. But the actual marks you're making are normally quite simple. So we'll have Isabel like this. I think we will have her with her arms going behind her back, because then we don't need to worry about hands and all that. Oh, by the way, I wear this when I'm drawing on the iPad so that I don't, basically my palm can mess the pictures up. So I wear this glove. Now, what we'll do is we'll draw a triangle on one side of Isabel like that. And that's going to be one arm behind her back. And we can do a few little wrinkles for how the fabric is folding. I'll tell you what, let's actually have her waving. So we'll have one arm coming up a bit higher. So I'll just bring her arm curling up like this. And then we can do a hand. Now, hands are tricky. Horses are tricky, bikes are tricky, hands are tricky. These things are all things that illustrators can struggle with. Even professional illustrators like me. That's why I've never done a book about a horse. So what we'll do is we'll draw a circle on the end of the arm, okay? And that's going to be the palm. So having drawn the circle, all we need to do is 1, 2, 3, 4. Little kind of sausagey fingers coming off the end of it. And then we do a slightly shorter one sticking out in the other direction, which will be the thumb. Okay? So we've got the basic shape of the character in. Now I'm going to draw Isabel how she is on the front cover. So she's wearing her hat. So around halfway up your oval, draw a slightly curving line that just cuts all the way across the oval. That's the bottom of the hat. Now we're going to draw another line a bit further up. So that's going to be the rim of the hat. We'll draw these lines going straight down here between those two lines. That's going to be the kind of folded over bit of her woolly hat. We'll do a scribble here for the kind of bobbly bit. Okay. Now, we're going to draw Isabel's features, okay? So what we're going to do is, Isabel, on these books, the characters have, kind of dots for eyes, which makes it quite easy to draw. So what we do is we just pick, it's about putting it in the right place though, okay? So what we do is about halfway up the face area that we've got here, and towards one side we'll put one dot, and then towards the other side we put another dot. So we've got 2 dots, which are going to be where we want her eyes to be. Now kind of in between those dots we do a nose, and it's kind of like a tick. So you do a line straight down, a line up, and then a line down. So we've just got this kind of little pointy nose that she has, and we can just do a little shy smile underneath there. And then one thing that's really important in a picture is eyebrows, okay? So eyebrows will give your character personality. So look, I'll show you. For example here, Isabel is smiling, so she looks happy. And if we do her eyebrows going up, then she's still smiling, she's still happy. But if we did her eyebrows going down like this, then suddenly she's looking sneaky and mischievous, like she's up to no good. Okay, but that's not Isabel's style, so we won't do that. In this picture, we're going to have her eyebrows going slightly up so that she looks friendly and approachable, but not going up so much that she looks worried, because that's another thing you could do with this. So instead of them going up like that, we could have the eyebrows going up like this, and then she'd be like, oh, what's going on? Like I say, we don't want that. We just want them going up a little bit. Now, we need to do her hair. So what I do for Isabel is her hair kind of fans out. I'm imagining she's got quite thick hair, so it's like tucked in under her hat, but where her hat isn't, it kind of all fans out. So you could just scribble. Be careful here not to go too much over the face, okay? So we just try and keep our scribble for the hair so it doesn't go over the lines we've drawn for the edge of her face. So we have the scribble going behind her arm, okay? So she's waving in front of her hair. And now we need to do her fringe. So she's just got a little bit of hair that pokes out the front of her hat. Maybe it comes down a bit at the side there. Maybe a bit coming down the side there. And now we've got all of our basic details in. So what we're going to do now, having done that, is we're going to choose a slightly heavier pencil. So if you have coloured pencils, you could do this with a black one. If you don't have coloured pencils, you could just go over it a bit harder with your normal pencil. So I am going to start going over with these lines here, and I'll press nice and hard so I get a good, clear, strong stroke. And along here, oops, sorry, that's an email coming through to me. I'll ignore it. That's what I do all the time. Sorry if you ever try to email me and I ignore it. That's what I'm doing. But I've got to do my work. Can't be answering emails all the time. Okay, so I draw in these details. So I'm going to fill in her hair as well a bit harder. So we'll fill it all in down here. Fill, 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 fill. And if you're drawing along with me, then just, try and do this as well. Obviously, if you're going a bit slower than I am, you need more time, that's fine. You can always pause it, get the hair done, and then go back into it. So we'll fill in all of this hair here. Fill in down here. Okay, so we've now got the hair drawn in. So I'm going to draw the hard lines for the side of Isabel's face and that side, and I will go all the way over, putting these creases in to show where the fabric of her jumper is kind of bunching up. You know, if you look at, say, my jumper here, it all bunches up under that arm and it bunches up there. Wherever something bends, when it's covered in fabric, you'll get these creases, okay? And now we'll do her legs. So little creases at the top of the leg. And then we draw in these, draw in the feet. Okay. Now we've got all of our lines gone over. Oh, I didn't do the hands, did I? 1, 2, 3, 4. So there we go. Now what we can do is we can start thinking about colouring in. So on the actual book, Isabel's hat is grey. So I'm just going to go with the same colours on this, I think. So we'll fill it in. So this is where you get your colouring pencils. If you don't have colouring pencils, you could just do it with your pencil. So you could just shade it in if you like. You could just do it kind of like that. And then you just have sort of some of the hat showing, some of it shaded. You do that there. You could shade here. When you're shading, what you need to imagine is that the light is all coming from one direction. So for example, if we had our light coming down here, light source, then all of our shading would appear on the opposite side of her body. So the light would be lighting up, well, kind of like I've got this light here. So that light is hitting me on this side and it's casting a shadow across me that way. So if you can think about that when you do your drawings, then your pictures will look like they're set in a real place where there's real light. So we could put the shading in like this, put the shading in like that, and there we go. So if you did have your colouring pencils and you were wanting to colour your character, then you can basically just choose whatever colours you like. As I said, I used grey in the actual book. So I'm going to make Isabel's hat here grey as well. Draw, 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 draw. There we go. Draw, 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 draw. Okay. So yeah, and if you go outside of the lines, then don't worry too much. It's fine. You know, obviously the neater you can do it, the better. But lots of people draw out of the lines anyway, and it looks great. You know, professional illustrators do that. So you can just say it's your style and you'll get away with it. So yeah, I'm going to make her hair kind of dark brown. So start filling this in dark brown here. I mean, if you wanted, you could make Isabel look how you look. So you could do completely different hair. You could put this character wearing clothes that you like to wear. It doesn't have to be the jumper that Isabel's wearing, but this is just to get you started off. So we'll fill this in here, do her fringe. There we go. Got that fringy bit, got that bit. Now, Isabel's jumper in the book is green, so I'm going to choose a nice greeny green. I chose a green jumper for Isabel because when I was a kid, I had an absolute favourite jumper that I just loved. And it was this woolen jumper with this pattern on it, very much like the pattern that I've drawn in the book. And I was so sad when I finally grew out of it. And I think I kept wearing it even when it was far too small for me, just because I loved it so much. So there you go. Little story about the jumper there. So we got that green. Isabel's trousers are kind of tan, a sort of tan colour. So I'll choose a kind of beigey colour. Again, if you don't have these colours, you can draw it however you like. Or even if you do have those colours, but you're just like, oh, I don't want beige trousers on my character, then that's fine. So the shoes are dark brown as well. Draw these in like this. There's one. There's two. Let's do a little, I'll do the skin tone. So Isabel's got a sort of, yeah, fairly pale skin tone, but a bit of So yeah, kind of tan. Again, I would say go for a sort of tan colour, or again, just whatever you want to put in. So we'll do this here. Draw the fingers. Got all of that. Okay, maybe I'll put a little bit. What I like to do is sometimes put a bit more red on the cheeks, just so you've got like a little bit of yeah, it just gives the character, makes them look a little bit healthier. You know, when you've got like rosy cheeks and you look all like you've been outside and exploring the big wide world. And finally, we need to put in, oops, yeah, we'll put in the hat details. So I had a zigzag on my hat. And then I had a white one. Now I'm doing this on the computer, so it's quite easy to go over grey with white, but you won't be able to do that with real colouring pencils because that's just not how they work, which is kind of annoying, but you know, there you go. So on Isabel's jumper, I'm going to put in a pattern. I'll do a kind of stripy pattern. So let's just draw, if you just draw close lines together, press quite hard and go down, 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 then you get a nice stripy look to the jumper. Just noticed I've got a funny old mark on one of my things, but I don't know where it's coming from. So, oh no, that's not that one. Oh well, let's ignore it. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to draw those kind of invisible stars and things like that, because I like doing that sort of a thing. So we'll go, right, okay, word on stars. Stars are tricky. I've practiced stars quite a lot and I can do them quite quickly, but you might find it harder. So I'll draw one big first to show you how I do it. So I just go down, across, down, down, up, down, across, 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 up. So that's how I do them. Some people do stars like 2 triangles. You could do stars like that as well. That's a kind of that's a good simple way to get started with doing stars. But I do prefer the shape of ones where it's just like that. So I'm going to do a bunch of stars all around it. Or you could do things like this. So you draw like a crisscross where it goes, you draw a cross, then you go diagonally as well. Okay, and so you get some little stars and sparkly effects. You can even do little dots or even little like circles, tiny little circles. Will make it look like you've got something kind of sparkly and magic. And then all we have to do is draw radiating lines. So imagine that Isabel is like the sun and she's shining out. And so we draw these lines so they come out almost like they're in a circle all around her. Radiating lines, again, it's one of these things that can be a bit tricky. You keep some of them faint, keep some of them really close together, and then some of them further apart. And you should get a nice look. And then finally, all we need to do is add in a shadow underneath her, because then that shows that Isabel is standing on a surface, even though we can't actually see the background or the world that she's in. And there we go. We have a picture of Isabel. I really hope that you enjoyed Isabel's story and had fun making the picture. Feel free to send me your drawings. You can find me on Twitter at Tom Percival Says. I would love to see what you've come up with. And all I need to say now is remember to look out for people in your community who might seem invisible. We all need a bit of kindness and care, and if you can be the person to offer some help or a kind word to someone who's having a tough time, then you really are making a difference. You're making the world a better place. On the other hand, if you feel invisible, like Isabel in the story, or like I did when I was younger, then please remember that things can improve over time. I know that it's hard, but you just need to keep on going. Keep trying your best, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. So that's it. Thanks for watching.